here's the deal. We created the town center, the town green area to
Mhm.
be a gathering place. We have resources in there to make it
Yeah.
so.
Welcome to Prime Lunchtime with Brian Johnson, a monthly podcast featuring the city manager and your host, Rico Figliolini. Taking the conversation beyond just talk, it's about getting the facts, discussing the issues, and asking honest questions of our city.
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Live, and a series of podcasts, including this one, Prime Lunchtime with the City Manager. Hey, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Rico?
Yeah, it's always good to talk through what the city's doing, things upcoming, development, and all sorts of stuff. So let's get right into the thick of it. I guess the first thing I want to talk about, because the Marshals have been working for a month now, I think it's been, right? Well, it's January, so about a month maybe. Although longer than that, because some of the stuff started before that.
Right.
And I had a podcast recently with Edward Marshall, so you all should listen to that one. That was a pretty good podcast, if I could say that. And but they've been here. They explained some of the technology they're using at a recent Southwest Gwinnett Chamber meeting. I understand they're actually in the midst of taking care of something that's been going on now for a little while, vandalism, both at town center and some other places. So maybe you could fill us in a little bit about what's going on there.
Yes. As a reminder, the Marshals were brought in to be, a force multiplier in addition to Gwinnett County PD, which is still, the primary law enforcement agency for the city.
Sure.
Us a millage rate to Gwinnett County to pay for that police protection here. So they're still our primary police department, but the Marshals are a supplement to that. And, it's allowing us to focus their efforts that may be harder for Gwinnett County to respond to, whether it's based on call volume or personnel, constraints, or even in some cases, the amount of importance they put on certain things, that organizationally it's still, West Precinct Commander still does report to a police chief who works, out of an office way up, north of. So sometimes what's important to the residents of this city don't always correspond to the same level of importance of, some of the command Gwinnett. And so,
For sure.
but anyway, so the Marshals, we bring them in to do that. And we have had something come up of late that, did kind of meet this definition of an additional asset being used on something that's more important to us. And that is our town center and the vandalism that we have seen of late. If you think about all the work being done there and the commitment we've made to the town center, we have created, a location that's a gathering place for the community. So on one hand, it's definitely working. The amount of playground equipment out there, we're getting ready to finish what is really a world-class obstacle course.
Yeah.
We've got, the grass in the, town center or on the town green itself done so that it can, handle rain and it better than it did. And it can also, be greener and not have patches where we were struggling with before. We've got a dog park going in. We've got, lots of shade structure. I mean, we're doing all these things that invite people. That's all great. But when you do that and you have lots of people, not every one of those people are good actors.
Right.
And we have some bad actors. And we have had a lot of vandalism of late, tagging, graffiti, some cases just wanton destruction of property, just like somebody who felt like it was cool to go into the bathroom and rip out of the wall the partitions in between the toilets, or just things.
It's amazing. Yes, it's just amazing. Just to think of the thought process and anger they must have in something to go do that. It's just like
Yes.
ridiculous.
I mean, the fire pit we have out there is constantly being jacked with. People think it's
Still,
fun into the flames. I mean, it's just never ending. But, as you can imagine, again, based on, like, say, call volume or the level of crime that Gwinnett County police officers are dealing with,
sure.
graffiti and other are not always as high a priority. However, from our standpoint, we think it is, in the context of what we don't want to have is our town center develop a reputation for being a place where it's kind of these type of people who think it's okay
Yeah.
to tag. And so we put our marshals on it, and as we as I have expected them to do, they went in, assessed the situation, and came back with some technology, options
Yeah.
for us to use to be, an added tool at their use. We have put in, cameras that have unique capabilities, including, again, cameras that can send messages to our marshals if people are in the view of the camera for a certain amount of time, certain numbers of people in the camera. These cameras are able to identify whether something is a person or a vehicle. And, like,
So is that using a little bit of technology?
it is. And
for that?
so we have AI being used to do that. And a good example might be the stairwells in the parking deck. Stairwells are infamous for, especially kids, doing things because it's a confined space that doesn't have a long view from afar for other people to see them doing something. And so we put cameras in there, and those cameras have AI, and they'll messages when it's essentially taking activity of people in the stairwell that they're there longer than you would normally see them in there. And then it'll send a message, and then our marshals can look at their phone or their computer whether or not it's somebody who stopped and they're tying their shoe, or they
They can
dropped
actually,
stuff, or
because they can actually see a live video feed from that
correct.
stairwell, no?
Yes, when they get the immediately, that's the live feed of the camera.
Right.
And then some of these cameras we have in there have speakers on them. And so then they'll be able to talk through and say, hey, I see what you're doing. You need to move on. You need to do. So that's just one example of some of the things that we're doing to help out. It is complicated when we have caught, kids tagging or destroying property because they're minors. To prosecuting them, there's a different process for minors. We're not particularly in cases where it's the first time for a kid having done something. We're not wanting to, ruin any kid's career or anything. We're more worried about A, prevention, or B, at least, putting to a degree the fear of God into a kid who did it the first, telling them that, look, you're not able to go out there and do things without people seeing you like you think. And if you get caught doing this again, then the city may end up pursuing a charge of some sort. Trying to work with the parents, bringing the parents in and showing them evidence of what their kid's doing and saying, hey, do you want your kid to be banned from going to the town center? Which is another thing that we can do. Back, they would actually be trespassing. So, again, we're using tools to help, but
there's no facial recognition right now as far as being able to keep that in a database to say thing, I think, at some of the concert venues. They would do facial recognition to make sure to keep out bad players, which is not a bad thing. But obviously, some people think that's a bad thing to do that. But
we have not. That is that can be a common, uh, function that is used at certain event venues. You're
Mhm.
right. We talked about it before, where people walking past a certain point, taking facial recognition and comparing it against people who have warrants out for their arrest
Yeah, is that
and doing it that way. We have not deployed that technology. I have not wanted to get into that threshold or get into personally identifiable
sure?
information being stored on city servers. So we have not deployed those functions, despite the fact that really facial recognition software and technology is not particularly anymore. I mean,
No,
so
it's not.
those cameras have the ability to have that function on there. It's just a matter of, software that, gets certain points
Mhm.
on a face and then
Yeah.
compares it back to a database, same things. So it's not particularly cutting edge technology anymore. It's just not used wholesale because of the sensitivity of facial recognition
Yeah.
information.
I mean, all these camera stuff, everything's evolving and changing. I just saw something on 11 Alive that just came across this morning about Ring now saying that if video wants to be had by, they actually have to serve a warrant now for the video to be released. Now, I don't know how that works. Me owning Ring, if they're saying that because I'm using it through their system, it's on their cloud, that disrupts the access unless you have a warrant. There wasn't too much. 11 Alive didn't cover too much detail on that, but
I believe it's still like our Connect PTC program, which is the
right.
one where you register your camera. I do believe that if you voluntarily, give permission for police to pull feed from your camera or merely just say, I have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's ever a crime in my camera feed might help you,
Right.
here's how to contact me. And then you can contact me and ask for it. I believe both of those will still supersede the need for a warrant because you voluntarily police department permission.
Correct. I think that's where that was going. That if the individual homeowner didn't want to do it, Ring
Right.
cannot be forced unless you provide
Yep.
a search warrant or a warrant on it. So, but that just proves that technology, as advanced as we're getting, the police, the marshals, were sharing with us a few things as well, technology-wise, that uh, are being used or going to be used or being tested right now, like bowler wraps. Taser 10 versus the normal taser that has two prongs. The taser 10 has 10. Because as they were explaining, as anyone can imagine, two wires being hit into perpetrator may not hit the right way. So you're going to need several shots. And that's why you up to 10 shots to be able to get that connection and electrification that's needed.
Yeah, you could be wearing a thick coat or body armor or whatever, and the leads don't actually get into your skin. And so, and on the town center stuff, on the vandalism stuff, God forbid we have to use that. But what we're wanting to do is capture crimes being committed. Oftentimes, it's pretty us to get a name to a face because a lot of times we just have to ask around.
True.
And, people who have kids that age or they know themselves or dumb or, whatever, then you're like, oh, I know that kid. We've had one where it was a kid that I coached many years ago and I saw it. I knew who the kid was. I mean, so, most of the time, the people who are there doing it are people who live in our community. That's the sad part.
I was going to ask you that.
You get that. It's also sad that there's not more self-policing I
Yeah.
wish that there were more adults out there that were policing the actions of their own kids or others. We have kids
Yeah.
wandering off. A parent will have a kid that's like 2 years old, and they'll take him out to the town green, and then the parents talking or looking on their phone, and then the kid wanders off, and they're on playground equipment that are
Right.
beyond their abilities, but the
Yeah.
parent thinks that it's a babysitter, and they just let the playground become the babysitter, and then you run into problems, and they shouldn't have been
Hmm.
there in the first place.
Yeah, and people don't. You're right. People don't take responsibility like that. Instead, I see it every day when I go out. It's unbelievable. And in certain places, you really want to be your child because you know people can get abducted. It happens every day in the city metro area of Atlanta. Uh,
Yeah.
so I just
And even the fence, the wooden fence that's going around the fitness
right.
or obstacles were in the wood line there.
Yeah.
That is being done because we needed to secure those stations away from kids wandering in without would just let them wander in there and then get on stuff that again was beyond their ability. So, our insurance company said you've got to contain that. So now when the towers go in, because since it's in the wood line, we decided to make the fence look more like a frontier fort, in
Cool.
keeping with so we've got the little fort towers going in on the
Yeah.
corners. And once that happens, you will only be able to get in it at two locations, and you'll have to walk through a point in which there's a lot of signage saying if you're not of a certain age or
Okay.
haven't signed a waiver, you're not to be in here at all. Now, that won't mean that people won't sneak in there. It's not going to be have a access or
Right.
anything, but if somebody ignores it and goes in there and gets hurt, we can't be
Right.
blamed because
Is
we
you have a disclaimer right there. That's so sad that people have that you have to do that. That's
Yep.
like the don't put it over your head because you'll suffocate. The warnings that on just plastic coverings to pillowcases and other product that it needs that because no one's intelligent to know that you put the bag over your head, you might suffocate. It's like year old goes on something, maybe he's climbing up and all of a sudden it's 15 feet up because maybe he's that good on a rope and then falls, God forbid. I mean, it's
Yep.
just like, yeah, you were
But
right.
that would happen. They sprain their ankle. And the parents like the city, you're at fault. And we're kind of like, no, we're not.
Yes.
You should. But anyway, that's why we're doing that.
Yes.
And so, but regardless, at the end of the day, we created the town center, the town green area to be a gathering place. It is. We continue to put resources in there to make it so.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with the people, in the way that we are.
Sure.
But you could argue it's a good problem to have. It does show that the town center has become a place where people want to go hang out.
For sure. I mean, these concerts that 5,000 people, like
The
you said,
playground equipment. I mean, we're going to have
right?
the ability to have the tot lot for really small kids that's going in right now. Then you've got kind of the middle range, older kid playground. At a certain age, you could go into the obstacle course there. You got all that kind of stuff. The town green, even in a normal day or evening that doesn't have programmed stuff going on, it's a great place to hang out. There's lots of tables, chairs, shaded areas to sit and hang out. And then the dog park will be done in about a month, and you'll be able to take your dog there. There's a small dog and large dog lot, and then we're going to have
So okay, so that's still going. That's going to be in concession.
we will have something to where not sure what hours or days it will operate, but at some point somebody will operate. The dog is at the dog park. You can get a beverage while you're there. and not even have to leave the confines of the dog park. You can just go
Yeah.
right up to the bone bar inside the fenced area of the dog park. And
It's going to be a busy. I mean, once
yeah,
the apartment complex behind Chase and HW, they've broken ground. They're working there also.
yep.
Uh, that's going to be within a year, I guess. They'll probably be pretty much up. And talking about cameras and stuff, that'll probably be cameraed up also. I think as these things get built out, right, there's going to be more cameras in the system that the marshals can use to keep us all safe, right?
And also patrolling. We've got, soon as the construction is done, we've got a police golf cart that they can ride around. Necessarily, we also have a police e-bike for
Cool.
the officer or marshal to be using to make their rounds. And then the substation there has the ability to pull up any camera anywhere on the facility. So even when they're not walking around kind of showing the flag, they can still have their eyes on all this stuff. And so, we have to use technology to help, us and be, an additional resource, and we will. But hopefully the word starts to get out that into some delinquent activities,
Yeah.
don't do it there, because we will have video of you doing it, and we will use that video to prosecute.
There, I mean, Restrepo was talking about, there was, there's mailbox break-ins that happen in some of the apartment complexes, and there's certain times of year that it happens, and some returning players, because it's their business. This is what they do, living. So it's not just they're doing it one time; they're doing it maybe at several locations. And he talked to us about how the system of cameras has helped them find sometimes perpetrators within 8 hours. 24 hours, depending on what it is, what the crime was, where it might have taken weeks before, and you might not have been able to find who it was before.
Well, even, like we had the Carnegie jewelry store got robbed.
Yes.
Our marshals identified the car within an hour of it happening. And then they were able to trace the car down to an apartment complex in Atlanta. And by talking to detectives, do some work in the apartment area, we're able to identify the people who were in the car. And so it's because of the license plate recognition cameras and our inter-service with other jurisdictions and their camera systems allow us to do this. And as a result, we've solved a lot of the, bigger, more notorious crimes that we've had happen here. So it's
the technology, the cameras, the detective work that these guys are doing, though, too, because it takes critical thinking to go through some of this. And I can see the passion that they have when they talk about what technology they're using, about, being able to trace a criminal and finding out certain things. I mean, there was one where I think two criminals, it was two of them, looked like they were women robbing a postal an apartment complex. By the way, this particular complex decided to put cameras in, I guess, because too many things were happening there. And they were able to find out that essentially they went out women, and they, they were wearing disguises. They were able to find them.
Well, on the using the Carnegie jewelry robbery as an example, we had a camera that caught them. They were walking away from the camera, so we didn't, a video of their face.
Right.
But we caught them walking away and then getting into the car, and, we got the car. But one of our deputy marshals, Henry Mesa, video of them walking away, and he noticed that one of the guys' walking gait was a little bit abnormal, in that he didn't seem to swing one of his arms way that, how they swing.
That's right.
And it occurred to him that that guy may have hurt his arm, may have been in a sling of some sort. But again, we only saw them walking away. So
Right.
it was only to their back. So he put in the be on the lookout that there may be somebody that has an injured, I believe it was right arm. And sure enough, when the detectives went to that apartment complex, identified the guy there, and they apprehended them, one of them just recently had surgery on an arm, and it had been in a cast.
See, that's what I mean. It's just
unbelievable how these guys can take video and look into aspects of it, pull out unique things that can be, what is the determining factor of it being that person.
I mean, just listening to Restrepo and then seeing the presentation they chamber and talking about social media and how, gangsters like to post this stuff too, apparently.
Yeah.
Because they want to fan out the money, the guns, the car. In fact, 2 cars, I think, in the particular case that they were down the person because of some of the cars that were in the pictures even. So they're using everything. Because today you can use everything and you should use everything.
You can, and what makes our marshals unique is they are not the primary law enforcement agency. They are not getting dispatched by 911 to calls. So they're not distracted, those kind of things that, Gwinnett is, where Gwinnett could have somebody working on a case, something, and then a call comes in and they've got to stop what they're doing and they've got to go and respond to it. Marshals don't have that. So Chief Restrepo is focus their efforts on what's important to us and to really fill those gaps in. So they've been an unbelievable resource even to date. And they've only been really up and running with the policy that I needed to have in place to kind of cut them loose. They've only had really the first of the year. I mean, it's just in a short period of time, they have been instrumental in solving a number of crimes.
The more they, because most of these, all of these criminals have come, I shouldn't say all of them, a lot of them have come from like Clayton County or Atlanta. They're not even local players.
Correct. There is not a lot. The vandalism at the town center might be local, but the major crime, violent crime being committed here are not Peachtree Corners residents. They are criminal elements coming from parts outside the city, coming to the city because that they know that we have people with resources that, make it to where it's interest to the criminal element.
Yeah. Easy targets for them.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we talk? We'll keep it short on some of these things coming up, but I just want to go through it a little bit. One is we know the dog park will be ready. Sounds like within a month. The closing off of the it's almost done. Just have to put up the towers, I guess. And so by the end of April, March, I guess.
All the town center stuff, the town green, turf replacement, drainage and turf replacement, the tot lot, obstacle course, fencing, and the dog park will all be done by the end of March. Or excuse me, the end of April. End of April.
Okay.
Because May is our first concert.
Right.
It all needs to be done beforehand. And we want the turf to at least have a month of nobody walking on it so it gets set. Sure. But all of this will be done by the end of April, and the town green will be, at that point, we'll start our summer concert series.
Cool. Yeah, and I hear it's going to be a big one leading off. So
we got a good one. We got a really good mix of types of music, some actual bands, some cover bands of big names. Right, it's going to be a fun season.
It's going to be great. I think every year more things are coming. More things are being added. So all good. Like the Criterium Road Race uh, annual started last year, had a really good start. Did rain that night. I think it was Wednesday that day, but still had almost 300 people. Had a good turnout. This year it's going to be April 28th, Saturday. So it's going to be right at the tail end of Speed Week, or is it beginning of Speed Week?
The middle of Speed Week. It's
Middle
the
of Speed
middle. Yeah, it is.
Is it the 20th? No, it's not. It can't be. That's a Sunday, the 28th. Isn't
It's
that
a
it?
Sunday. Yeah, it's April 28th.
Right.
It's a Sunday. Now, there's a couple of differences. It'll start at 10. It'll probably be over around 8.
Mm-hmm.
But we are the bike races of different skill classes,
Right.
everything from amateur all the way up to pro. We're actually going to do a professional invitational road race, meaning a run. We're going to do
really?
a mile. Yes, we're going to do a mile, road run. It's going to be a tough one because it's an uphill. It's an uphill, course essentially. But so for runners out there, you're going to be able to do that. If you're not a cyclist but you're a runner, we'll have a road race, and we're also bringing in a bunch of kid stuff like bouncy houses, things. So for parents who want to bring their kids out, and if they're too young to necessarily sit and watch all of the race, there's going to be some things for kids, and then we'll have food trucks out here, and then we'll have lots of different vendors that are in the space of exercise at some level. We'll have everything from bike manufacturers, maybe shoe companies for running, those kind of things, all the way to some of the recovery type of things like cryotherapy and spa treatments and everything. Definitely some technology within the vulnerable road user space. Again, Curiosity Lab event. So we want to make sure we highlight the technology that's out there to help both runners and cyclists be safer.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great event.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Way more than last year. A lot more stuff happening. Yeah. The other thing is, I think Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival is coming back later in the year. I heard about that, so that's cool. That's the second year running. That'll be coming. The city's working on developing to be able to. That's a flexible app that the city could grow into. Want to spend a few minutes just telling us what's going to be in that app, at least at the beginning? Or what are you looking at doing with that?
I mean, I think we all know that oftentimes maybe even in many cases, the primary, vehicle you use to get to a website or to do something is through your phone. Mm-hmm. So if, you want to find, that way to get to, say, your website or to get you information is user friendly, you got to have a very good app. Our app has limitations that are preventing us from things that we want to be able to do. And so we're, right now talking to some companies to make sure that we have kind of the wireframe that, is the, bones of an app. We need one robust for us to be able to do everything from, geofencing to where we can push notifications to somebody as soon as they hit our city limits, to the ability to push us more. Somebody sees something out in the community and they want to report it. We want them to be able to post many pictures and videos and send it directly to us if they see something happening. We want there to be more interaction with our marshals through the app.
Sure.
To be able to come through it. We want Waze and Google Maps to be able to come through it. We have a lot of different things that we want to use so that a Peachtree Corners stakeholder, whether they live or work or play here, and within the app, you have a one-stop shop for everything.
Cool. And they should be able to even maybe at some point check permits or maybe, house
Yes.
permits, maybe, or pay for things on there.
Yes.
Cool. Absolutely good. The other thing is that, there's development going on as always in any city that's growing, and traffic has to be attended to. I know that the Medlock Bridge Road, 141, CVS's, that's all pretty much, I think that looks like that's all pretty much done over there.
Well, no, that's Bush Road in Medlock.
Bush Road, that's what I meant. Bush Road.
Now, we do have the intersection improvement at Medlock East Jones Bridge.
Right.
We have, an additional turn lane onto East Jones Bridge heading south or right turn.
Right.
We have a deeper stacking on East Jones Bridge for the left turns.
Yeah.
We're going to end up on the southbound side of 141 coming out of Johns Creek. When you hit, just past Wellington Lake, there starts to be a lot of, call it decelerate lane into like Suburban Medical, Ingalls, the Forum. We're taking all those and making it a through lane. So when you hit Wellington Lake heading south, you will ultimately have 3 lanes of travel all the way up over the hill until you hit Peachtree Corners Circle.
Right.
And the purpose of that is to try to flush cars through that busy stretch faster, because that's where it can get backed up. And so that's happening. We're working with GDOT, and we're in right-of-way acquisition right now of some additional right-of-way. So that'll help those intersections.
And along that way at Peachtree Corner Circle now, when you make a right by what's going to be opening soon, the renewed QT, brand new building, brand new everything. So when you make a right turn there, eventually, it's being designed now, I guess, and design, you said, is the roundabout that's going to be by the Trader Joe's entrance of the Forum.
That's correct. And so, right now, if you come there at Trader Joe's and you want to turn left, it's not a particularly safe,
far. Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is put a roundabout. So if you want to turn left, you're technically turning right and then just going right into a circle and then coming out on there. So that'll make it much safer for everybody there. So there'll be one going in there. That's under design.
Right. So that's coming. I wondered about that because at some point when I heard it originally, it's only 400 feet or yards, I guess, feet from the intersection. But it does make sense because I've sat there sometimes wondering why people are playing chicken, trying to see if they can make that left turn before a car comes down. I've seen at least one, if not 2 accidents a year right over there.
Yeah.
Because someone decided they had to make a left when they should have just waited. Yeah.
Yep. So this will make it to where technically no the left. They're making, they're actually, just entering directly into a roundabout. They just go around it, and that's how they make their left. So much safer. But those are the kind of things that should move traffic through consistently and safely than it currently is.
Cool. So that is coming into play. There's more, obviously, at another time we'll talk about this better, but obviously there's more developments. Developers wanting to apply for more developments, more apartments. I know that there's one that's being looked at off, I think, Da Vinci Court, maybe. That could be 200 plus units. There's some other ones being looked at. There's, I think I just saw in the agenda this past, I don't know if that was the first read or second read, 75 townhouses.
That's off of
Engineering Drive, right? 9 plus. And they're looking to put 75 units there.
Right so now, but Rico, that's an important, I'm glad you bring that up. That's a great example of what mayor and council are doing in that parcel basically at the corner of 141 and Engineering on the
Yes.
west side of the road, across from the liquor store.
Correct. Yep.
It's one parcel in, so you can't really see it from 141 because there's
Mhm.
trees. There's a open surface parking lot literally at the corner. They're in the very next lot. But anyway, they came before mayor and council last year and with a product that had apartments. And council denied that. And then they came back and worked with staff. And now they're coming back with an equity product and less density. It went from like 150 or 75 apartment units and got denied. And then they came back and they've got about 75 townhome units. So, mayor and council are still, while we may have a lot of these coming in front of us, they by are, like, oh, sure, sounds good. No,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
very strategic in location, use, type of housing unit, all that kind of stuff. So we'll have more of these to it's the way things go.
Mhm.
But
It's
we'll be very dutiful in our assessment of each and every one on a case by case basis.
good to see that. Good to see. Yeah, I've even heard condos versus apartments, uh, which would be, I think, better, right? Equity owned is always better.
Yeah, I mean, we want to have diverse housing stock, but you don't want to have too much of any one thing. And that goes for apartments. That even goes for single family detached residential. I
Yeah.
mean, not everybody can afford houses in Peachtree Corners right now
Yeah.
or
And I-
wants to do it. So, you have to be careful though about housing units you allow to go where. And that's the challenge.
Yeah, we've discussed that before, even affordable housing.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about that the city, the council, planning department are looking at affordable housing, truly affordable, how that would work.
Yeah, and when we say affordable, we're just talking about putting some mechanism in there that takes an equity product and doesn't allow the market to just jack the prices
That's
way
right.
up. It's capped to a point where it makes it affordable for somebody who wants to own
Mhm.
and just, like maybe, some of people in the education profession or, public safety, police and
Right.
fire, ones that, unfortunately, those professions don't necessarily make a ton of money, but great to have more of them be able to live in the city. And so that would be that's our focus as we're assessing what our options are.
Yeah. I mean, living an hour away from somewhere is always a difficult part for them, their family, and those they serve. Uh, we've been close to 40 minutes. Appreciate the time, Brian, that you give me every month to talk.
Absolutely.
This is always a good conversation. There's always stuff I don't know. I mean, it's good to do this and to meet you all, at different times also, and having city council people sometimes on these podcasts also talking about seeing and doing. You all just had the swearing in too this past Tuesday, I think.
We did. We had 4 council members sworn in. Most notable is we have our first African American member, Laura Douglas, who was sworn in, and so we have a new council member. She took Lori Christopher's old seat after Lori retired.
Yeah.
And so about bringing her on board. And then we had 3 other incumbents that ran and they got sworn in. So back to the business of the people.
Definitely. Appreciate you being with us and talking through this stuff. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Till next time, Peachtree Corners Life. Visit us at livinginpeachtreecorners.com, the website, to find out more information on a regular basis. The latest issue of Peachtree Corners Magazine and Southwest Gwinnett Magazine. We're actually working on the next issue, International Foods and Flavors, is the cover story for our next issue of Peachtree Corners magazine. You wouldn't be surprised, maybe, types of food and venues we have here, from West African to Cuban to Venezuelan. Just a ton of different type of variety of restaurants and foods here. So check it out, and appreciate you being with us.
You've been listening to Prime Lunchtime with Brian Johnson, the city manager of Peachtree Corners, Georgia, with your host, Rico Figlione. This show is part of a family of podcasts produced by Peachtree Corners Magazine and Mighty Rockets. To find more episodes of this show or our other podcasts, visit livinginpeachtreecorners.com or follow us on Facebook at Peachtree Corners Life.